The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the bustling city of Lagos. Bucky sat in the back seat of her father's car, her school trunk packed tightly beside her. She stared out the window, her heart heavy with a mix of excitement and dread. Today was the day she would begin her senior secondary school education at the prestigious Greenfield Academy, a boarding school known for its academic excellence. But for Bucky, it felt more like a sentence than an opportunity. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Adewale, were both successful professionals. Her father was a high-ranking banker, and her mother was a renowned surgeon. Their lives were a whirlwind of meetings, surgeries, and business trips, leaving little time for their only child. Bucky had grown used to the silence of their large house, the empty dinner tables, and the constant presence of housekeepers who tried their best to fill the void. But this was different. Boarding school meant she would be completely on her own. "Bucky, you'll love it there," her mother said, breaking the silence. She adjusted her designer sunglasses and glanced at her daughter through the rearview mirror. "Greenfield is the best. You'll make friends, excel in your studies, and become a well-rounded individual." Bucky nodded silently, her fingers tracing the edge of her uniform skirt. She wanted to believe her mother, but the knot in her stomach told her otherwise. The car pulled up to the grand gates of Greenfield Academy, and Bucky's breath caught in her throat. The school was imposing, with its tall iron gates and sprawling campus. Students in crisp uniforms milled about, laughing and chatting as if they belonged there. Bucky felt like an outsider already. Her father helped her carry her trunk to the dormitory, his phone buzzing incessantly in his pocket. "I'll call you tonight, okay?" he said, giving her a quick hug before rushing off to answer an important call. Her mother kissed her forehead and promised to visit soon, but Bucky knew better. Soon could mean weeks, maybe even months. As her parents' car disappeared down the driveway, Bucky felt a wave of loneliness crash over her. She was shown to her dorm room by a stern-looking matron who introduced her to her roommates, 3 girls who barely glanced up from their phones to say hello. Bucky unpacked her things in silence, her heart sinking with each passing minute. The first few days were a blur of orientation activities and classes. Bucky tried to keep her head down, focusing on her studies and avoiding attention. But it didn't take long for the senior girls to notice her. They were a group of 4, led by a tall, sharp-tongued girl named Tolu. Tolu had a reputation for being ruthless, and she took an immediate dislike to Bucky. It started with small things: snide remarks in the dining hall, whispers in the corridors, and stolen glances that made Bucky's skin crawl. Then came the pranks. One morning, Bucky woke up to find her school shoes filled with water. Another time, her textbooks went missing, only to be found in the trash bin. She tried to ignore it, hoping it would stop, but it only got worse. One evening, as Bucky was returning to her dorm after prep, Tolu and her gang cornered her in the hallway. "Look who it is," Tolu sneered, her voice dripping with malice. "The little rich girl who thinks she's too good for us." Bucky's heart raced as she tried to push past them, but Tolu shoved her against the wall. "You think you can just waltz in here and act like you own the place?" Tolu hissed, her face inches from Bucky's. "You're nothing here. Remember that." Tears welled up in Bucky's eyes as she stumbled back to her room. She wanted to call her parents, to hear their voices and feel their comfort, but she knew they were too busy. Instead, she buried her face in her pillow and cried herself to sleep. The bullying escalated over the weeks, and Bucky felt like she was drowning. She tried to report the incidents to the school authorities, but the teachers either brushed her off or gave her vague promises to look into it. The headmistress, Mrs. Okonkwo, was a no-nonsense woman who believed in discipline but seemed more concerned with maintaining the school's reputation than addressing the students' grievances. One fateful evening, Bucky decided to take matters into her own hands. She had heard rumors about a secret meeting spot where the senior girls hung out after lights out. Determined to confront Tolu and put an end to the torment, Bucky sneaked out of her dorm and made her way to the abandoned storage shed at the edge of the campus. The shed was dimly lit by a single flickering bulb, and the air was thick with the scent of cigarette smoke. Bucky's heart pounded as she pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. Tolu and her gang were lounging on old crates, their laughter echoing off the walls. When they saw Bucky, their smiles turned to smirks. Well, look who decided to join us, Tolu said, standing up and sauntering toward Bucky. What do you want, little girls? Bucky clenched her fists, trying to summon the courage to speak. I want you to stop, she said, her voice trembling. I've done nothing to you. Just leave me alone. Tolu laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent shivers down Bucky's spine. Or what? You'll run to the teachers again? They don't care about you, Bucky. No one does. Before Bucky could respond, Tolu grabbed her by the arm and dragged her to the center of the room. The other girls circled around them, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Let's teach her a lesson, Tolu said, her voice low and dangerous. What happened next was a blur. The girls pushed Bucky to the ground, their laughter ringing in her ears as they kicked and punched her. Bucky curled into a ball, trying to protect herself, but the blows kept coming. She cried out for help, but no one came. The pain was unbearable, and soon, everything went black. When Bucky woke up, she was in the school infirmary, her body aching and her head throbbing. The nurse told her she had been found unconscious in a shed and rushed to the hospital. Her parents had been called, and they were on their way. The sight of her parents' worried faces when they arrived at the hospital was both a relief and a dagger to Bucky's heart. Her mother's eyes were red from crying, and her father's usual confident demeanor was replaced with guilt and regret. We're so sorry, Bucky, her mother whispered, clutching her hand. We should have been there for you. Bucky wanted to tell them how much she had needed them, how lonely she had felt, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded and let the tears flow. Bucky's recovery was slow but steady. Her parents made the decision to withdraw her from Greenfield Academy and enroll her in a day school closer to home. They also made a vow to prioritize their daughter over their careers, scheduling their work around her needs instead of the other way around. The first day at her new school was a stark contrast to her experience at Greenfield. The students were friendly, the teachers were approachable, and Bucky felt like she could finally breathe. She made friends quickly, joining the school's art club and discovering a passion for painting that helped her heal from the trauma she had endured. At home, her parents made an effort to be present. They had family dinners every night, attended her school events, and even took weekend trips together. Bucky felt like she was finally getting the love and attention she had always craved. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Bucky's father turned to her and said, "We're proud of you, Bucky. You've been through so much, but you've come out stronger. We're sorry we didn't see it sooner." Bucky smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years.
"It's okay, Dad," she said.
"We're together now, and that's all that matters." As the months passed, Bucky's confidence grew. She excelled in her studies, won awards for her artwork, and even started a campaign against bullying at her new school. She knew she couldn't change the past, but she was determined to make the future brighter, for herself and for others. The story of Bucky Adewale became one of resilience and redemption, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always hope for a new beginning.